I'm Mark Sponsler from StormSurf.com, and here's the surf forecast for the Hawaiian Islands for the week starting Thursday, April 14th. Brought to you by your surf authority, expert advice, and friendly staff, Hawaiian South Shore. As usual, start by looking at jet stream level winds. These winds up about 30,000 feet help support the formation of gales. When the gales form, help direct their track. We're looking for a trough, sort of like this, a dip in the jet. That helps create a counterclockwise flow aloft and down at the surface, and that's the hallmark of low pressure. And low pressure, if it's strong enough, generates winds. Winds, if they're strong enough, generate seas. Seas, as they radiate away from the fetch area, turn into swell, and swell when it hits your beach, like right there. That's why that creates surf. So let's get oriented. Here's the U.S. West Coast, the Aleutian Islands, Kuril Islands, Japan here, Hawaii right about there. We're looking for something that's really more organized. The jet is pretty split, fragmented, not super supportive of gale development. But as we get into the weekend, the jet starts consolidating, winds start building to 170 knots, flowing over the date line, just right on the edge of the Aleutians there. And then as we get into late Saturday night, a decent trough starts building off the Kuril Islands. And this is key for the future. That trough pushes east, and you'll see why in a minute. And then eventually starts building, moving into the Gulf of Alaska with 160, 170 knot winds, supportive of gale development. And there's more down at the surface that's going on that you can't see here. So let's go take a look at that. Here we are, surface level pressure, surface level winds, U.S. West Coast here, the Aleutian Islands, Kuril Islands, Japan. You see basically not a whole lot going on. High pressure off the U.S. West Coast at 1024 millibars. Another high pressure over the dateline at 1028 millibars. Easterly trades pushing into the Hawaiian Islands, 15 knots, generating easterly trade wind swell there. No big deal. The more interesting is this tropical system off the Philippines. As we put this into motion, you see it traveling north and building with winds 55 knots. Actually, that's pretty low. They're stronger than that. The GFS model has a hard time getting into the fine details. But as you get into Saturday, this low is to start to be caught by the jet stream, that trough that we indicated in the previous frame, and building, pushing over the dateline with 35, 45 to 40 knot winds, aimed reasonably well at the Hawaiian Islands, then getting into the Gulf of Alaska, building with 45 knot winds, now aimed mainly a little bit southeast of the Hawaiian Islands, but still sideband swell, probably radiating in that direction while falling south, and then fully east of the Hawaiian swell window as we get a week out. Now, the point being, the models that far out into the future, a week out, are not very reliable, especially regarding tropical systems. So this isn't something that's in the bag by any means, but it's something to at least keep our eyes on for the future. Now let's take a look at the effect of those winds on the ocean surface. You can see no real significant seas going on. You really want to get into at least the dark reds or the purples down here before something starts, really producing a decent size swell, decent period, like 15, 16 seconds. But we do have our tropical system with 35-foot seas. These are the highest seas over this entire domain here, and we'll put that into motion as this system moves north. And you can see seas building to 46 feet. Again, though, this is not aimed at Hawaii at that point in time. Really, all the energy aimed north. As we get into Saturday, though, the system starts turning off to the east with seas down to about 28 feet, pushing over the dateline with seas down to 25 feet. But certainly swell will be generated from that if this happens, radiating towards the Hawaiian Islands right here. And then as we get later in the week, the system rebuilds, and you see this, it actually falls south. We'll put this back into motion right here on like Monday night into Tuesday. Falls south, that energy would be aimed right at Hawaii, and then takes off to the east, aimed at the U.S. West Coast. Again, the caveat here, or the warning, is this is a model projected a week out. None of this has happened. The models are horrible at tracking tropical systems that far into the future, maybe 2 or 3 days out. So next week we'll have a much better handle on it. But if this develops as forecast, swell arrival expected into the Hawaiian Islands later in the work week next week. All that said, we can look down south too. There is small swell hitting the Hawaiian Islands as we speak. This is the last frame we have from a gale. This was Tuesday a week ago, and it pushed off with like 26-foot seas. And that swell, again, a little bit more energy into Thursday and then fading out. Another system pushed under New Zealand on Saturday night, again building with seas in the 25, 26-foot range, pushing across the South Pacific and then fading. Swell is expected to arrive along the South Shore over the weekend, Saturday through Monday, with pure swell, like 1.6 feet at 15 to 16 seconds. That's like 2.5-foot Hawaiian at top breaks on the South Shore. So waves again for the weekend, nothing huge, but definitely rideable. Let's go look forward. Now, as we get through Wednesday, another gale is forecast under New Zealand, but it's supposed to fall southeast, no energy aimed at Hawaii. But then on Saturday, this weekend, yet another gale develops under New Zealand, small area of 28 to 30-foot seas, building up to 34 feet, pushing off a little bit to the northeast, and then building with 39-foot seas as we get into Sunday and Monday, lifting well to the northeast. Hawaii is up in this region, so good energy. It really is all about, in fact, here, let's push this back. The direction of the storm, the further the storm pushes to the north, the more energy that pushes up in the direction of that travel, So that gives us some hope for maybe a decent southern hemi swell, maybe the first semi-real one of the year, if all goes as forecast. Then not a whole lot behind that, at least not immediately. And then beyond, we look at what's going on long term. Well, we still have the La Nina situation going on. Sea surface temperature anomalies, differences from normal for this time of year. There's South America, Central America, U.S. West Coast, Australia, New Guinea there, and Hawaii there. You see the blues, colder than normal temperatures. This is the classic, and it's right on the equator. That's all that matters. Specifically in the area from 120 west, 5 degrees north and south of the equator, to about 170 west, a box right there. You can see nothing but colder than normal water temperatures. That generally does not support energy transfer into the jet, either in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, and sort of starves off the fuel for storm systems. That said, that doesn't mean you don't get storms. They're just not as long. They don't last. They're not as strong. They don't last as long, and they're not as effective at producing swell as if you were in an El Nino winter where you would have warmer than normal temperatures here. So for right now, La Nina in control, expected to remain in control at least midway through the summer, and after that, it's a 50-50 guess on whether we go neutral or go into yet a third year of La Nina. All right, so to wrap it up, small southern hemiswell hitting the South Shore. Perhaps there's some hope at a larger north-angled swell for the Hawaiian Islands, maybe later next week, if a tropical system goes over the northern dateline region, taps the jet stream, and does all sorts of amazing things. Jury's still out on that. Probably the more likely bet, going back south, another gale forecast this weekend, pushing under New Zealand, for sure going to generate some swell, radiating towards the Hawaiian Islands for probably the weekend beyond that, and making some fun-sized surf. All right, that's it for this week. I'm Mark Sponsler. Do your shopping at Hawaiian South Shore, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.